Welcome to Bobby Hair Studio, where today we're going to be going over the expensive brunette as a tutorial. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Katie and I am the head stylist and color correction specialist at Bobby Hair Studio. This is my client and she has a full head of virgin hair and today she wants to do expensive brunette. Side note, I can see it. I know you guys can see it too. I totally forgot to brush in my dry shampoo in my hair today. So let's just ignore that and keep going. We're all professionals here. What I started with was a little bit of a cut for my client as we knew we were going to chop off several inches. And I didn't want to waste product or time on, bleaching 5 extra inches of hair. And now here I am putting the K18 key litter and the mist on, and I'm going to brush that in, let that sit for about 4 minutes before we start our service. And then I'm going to be doing some sectioning today. This is going to be a quite in-depth video on how to do balayage and expensive brunette. So, get comfortable, get a snack, and comment below what you're snacking on today. So we started with a teardrop shape top section, and that's going to provide us with a veil of softness over the hair. I'm going to refer to that as my veil today. And then from the parting, I have 2 side sections, and these are each going to include the money piece in them. And then I've got my top section, my back section, and I've split that into a top and bottom half. So let's get started with the actual positioning for all of our foiling today. And I'm also going to be using my Framar paddle brush. I love it so much, as well as these new amazing foils by Framar. They are the Hawaiian ones, super cute. They're called Vacation. And let's get started. So at the nape of the neck, I'm going to be using triangular sections, and these pieces here are going to want to fall forward in front of her ears and give her a little bit of a pop of color. So I do like to do these pieces a little bit more bold, but still very soft. So if you want boldness, go for a slice. If you want softness, go for a little weave. But I am going for a mix of that. I am going for a medium chunky weave. And I'm still back combing everything because, of course, we want her hair to be super, super low maintenance and very soft at the root. She wants a very long, soft drop root here. So back combing the hair is going to provide us with that blend that we need to have. And then we won't really have to do much of any kind of shadow root, root tap, drop root, whatever it is you like to call it. We didn't end up having to do one today. So if you want a simplified tutorial that doesn't have to do any root formulas separate from the mids to ends, this would be it, because we only use a toner formula today for our blonding work. So what I'm going to be showing you today is foils that I do on one side, but I'm not going to show you the other, because what I do is I'm going left to right to left to right. And whatever I do with one side, I immediately go and copy on the other, just so that I don't forget how I did any of my weaves or any of my back combing or how high I like to saturate my pieces. And I do this because when you're doing a brunette and you're doing a subtle look and you're not just trying to pack in the foil placement is actually pretty important, and you want to do the same thing. You want to create a mirror image from one side to the other. Unless you're doing a piece like this, and this is a connector piece. This is a piece that spans through the whole back of the head, and it covers one side and the other, and this will be one of the only 4 pieces that we actually do that's a connector piece in the back. There's going to be a couple up on the top as well, and you'll see that. But this is a relatively fast balayage to put in because there's not that many foils. But the foils all do an impactful job, and they all come together to create a very subtle and soft but impactful balayage look as well. Let's talk about what's in the bowl today. I have Schwarzkopf Blonde Me and 7 volume in the bowl. Now her natural level is like a level 3, maybe even a level 2. I know it's a little hard to tell on camera here. The camera does make her natural hair look a little bit lighter, but this is a really, really dark natural base, and she is very nervous of going too light. So we don't want to use anything stronger than a 7 volume because we want us to get to like a level 7, 7.5. And then we're going to tone down because our ideal tone that we're going for is level 5, 6. But ideally like to go for a level to a level and a half lighter than what the desired goal is, so that we cancel out the warm tones and not have to fight those tones with our toner. Because if you're going for a level 6, you don't want to lift to a level 6. You want to lift to a level 7. because at a level 6 you're going to have these like reddy orange tones. At a level 7 you're going to have orangey golden tones, and orangey golden tones are much easier to deposit onto than reddy golden tones. So as you can see with some of these pieces I am doing slices, and with some of them I'm doing weaves, and I think it's important to mix both options in here. Slices are going to give you a little bit more of an impact, and weaves are going to break up that look a little bit and give you a little bit more of those colorful ribbons of color. And both are great. Some people like to do their balayage with only one or only the other. Some like to mix it up. And I personally just like to go as I'm seeing the hair fall. And right here, it looked like a good idea to do a little bit of a panel, a slice, if you will. And that's the whole back section. It's like 6 foils there. And so what I did on one side, I did on the other. Now I'm taking the front and I'm doing her money piece. So this front slice is going to be split into 2 weaves, and I'm back combing them so that the top of the root is very soft. And what this does is when you take a weave out and you still bleach it, it creates this really, really bold piece of blonde, but it has a softer root because you are weaving it, and you're going to see like in and out the different levels of how high you've lifted up the lightener on these weaves. Hope that makes sense. But essentially it's the idea of a slice, but it's a softened at the root slice because you're using double the foils. But this is a really effective way of blending something up at the root in the front, which is kind of a difficult area to make sure that it still looks blended because things are just more obvious in the front and you could see more lines. So utilize this method if you have a hard time blending money pieces up at the front. So after that, I've gone over onto the left side of her head and replicated that. And now I'm coming back to the right side and I'm grabbing a third piece. So this is going to be the piece that kind of connects the money piece to everything else without doing too much connecting. We don't want it to look like it just so seamlessly blends into it. We still want a little bit of a difference. So we are doing a slice and we're backcombing it quite heavily so that there's still quite a lot left out. And we're not bringing it up super, super high with our blonding. We're bringing it up a decent amount, but nowhere near as high as the money piece was. Because as you guys saw, the money piece got bleached right up almost to the scalp versus everything else has been left quite a few inches out between. So this one has the best of both worlds. It's a slice, just like the front money piece is, but it's not brought up as high, just like everything else is. So it's a great transitionary piece is what I'm trying to say here in the longest way possible. You may have been noticing that I am like slicing some pieces out and just leaving them out. Those are very important when you're going for something that is a more subtle look, because I don't want 100% of the ends to be blonde. I only want a fair portion of it to be blonded, or brunette, but not her base color. And so what's just as important as what's going in the foil is what's staying out of the foil. You have to think about your ratios here. If your client wants to see quite a bit of their ends being blonded up, then you have to think about 75% of the hair should be in a foil. Now, that foil may not go all the way to the scalp. It may go only halfway up, and you may vary the pieces on how high you bring up all the lightener. But if someone wants to go quite blonde at the ends, you're going to want to think about how many foils you're putting into the hair and whether you do that with foiliage and dropped out pieces where you do a tip out, or if you do them all hand painted balayage, whatever it is, you have to think about how much is being left out just as much as you're thinking about how much is going into a foil. Now here we're doing another connector piece, and this piece is very subtle and very soft because I am basically doing a baby weave and backcombing from really far down on the hair, and I'm not bringing up the bleach nearly as high as I did with most other pieces. And that's just going to allow us to have a very soft transitionary piece here. Here's another transitionary piece where it's going to connect the front and the back pieces. I've laid it down, not in this clip here, just to see where it naturally falls, and it does kind of fill in that weird gap between those two highlights. So this is a great piece to keep in mind, is you don't want to leave any weird empty hollow spots. So having hair that naturally sits there, getting blended up with a slice that is angled towards the front, that's going to create this natural, like, transitionary, I don't know what other words to use today, but a natural transitionary piece from front to back to make sure everything's connected. Now we've got pieces from our veil that we're bringing out towards the front. And this is to connect the money piece to the veil. And the money piece has all been done as I showed you guys earlier. But the veil is all a much smaller, finer weave. I wouldn't say it's a baby weave, but it almost looks like that when you actually do start to backcomb everything after you've done a weave. But these are all much smaller weaves. They're backcombed, and I have decided to not bring up the bleach super high on this veil because I want the veil to sit over top of everything nice and softly like a bridal veil. And because it's such a small, fine weave, when it gets toned, it's just going to give this very soft, gradual effect from her roots down to the ends that are going to look almost a little bit ombre, but in a good way. There are good ombres out there, you guys, but this is how I do my veil here. And it's going to ensure that when her hair is straight and parted, that she has a very soft, subtle look, and she doesn't have any streaks of color that you can see individually, because she didn't want to see any of that. But you do get to see the contrast and the dimension in the hair when her hair is curled, and she says she does wear it curled pretty often, so she gets the best of both worlds, the subtle straight world and that sounded so not how I wanted to say that, the straight subtle side, and also the more vivacious curled side. And yeah, as you can see with these top sections, I'm taking gigantic pieces and I'm just weaving probably like 25% of it into the foil, and I'm still backcombing it. This is just going to give her the softest effect ever. It's going to blend those two colors together seamlessly, and then everything else that kind of comes out from underneath is just going to give her a little bit of that pop of color, which is what we want to see here. And I do this all the way from the veil from back to front. And as you saw a couple of those pieces earlier as well, where I pulled them out towards the side to see where they naturally want to fall. Those I did slices so that we have transitionary pieces from the front section to the back section. Here is what she looks like processing. She processed for about 45 minutes to an hour here with this in her hair. And again, there's not that many foils per section. There's about 5 or 6. And a pretty quick balayage to put in, but it's well thought out, which is what matters here, is that you have a well mirrored placement. After her processing, this is what her third to last foil looked like, which was when I ran out of bleach and I had to mix a new bowl. Always want to make sure that foil is lifted up to where you want. And then my last foil here, you always want to check that one as well, make sure that it's lifted, and it's lifted exactly to where I want as well. So now it's time to rinse. Now, when you take out a back home balayage in the sink, it's going to look really chunky and really scary, and it's going to look like a rat's nest. But if you, have faith and detangle it softly and gently with conditioner and take your time, it will go from looking like this, which looks really, again, chunky and wild and bold, although loving the lift of the color that we have. That's perfect for what we want today. To something like this, where it's detangled and it's got such a nice blend, and I already know I'm not going to have to do a root shadow here. I'm just going to need to do a regular toner for these orangey bits, but it's looking way softer. My first toner today is 7-4 and DT Milk Chocolate, and that's from the Blonde Me line and the Vibrance line from Schwarzkopf. And it didn't cover as much as I wanted it to, but I'd rather take it slow and steady when it comes to a subtle look. I don't want to overtone and leave her super dark where she can't see the color work. So we're starting lighter and we're going deeper as we go. So I want it deeper and a little bit cooler. So then I mixed in together 6-0 and 6-12. And here's where I should have done a little bit of a change. I should have mixed 3 parts 6-12 and 1 part 6-0, because I did have to go over it again with just 6-12 because we wanted it even a little bit cooler. But anyways, it's time to show you guys the end results. Here she is with her hair done all straight and blow dried. It's so soft and blended from roots to ends. And then we styled it by throwing some curls in, and here is what it looks like. And you can see a lot more of the dimension when someone has curls in their hair. This is why everyone on Pinterest curls the hair, because then you can see the dimension better. I'm loving how her hair looks. She can wear this for such a long time before needing to get it retouched up. Even though we did a lot of toners, I'm very happy with the balance that this has created. It's created a really beautiful milk chocolate tone using warm tones, cool tones, and naturals all together. Anyways, I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of this tutorial? Does it all make sense? What do you think of the placement and the formulas that I used today? I want to hear you guys sound off in the comments. And remember to like and subscribe to help this channel. Every little bit counts. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a lovely evening.